विश्व में हमने युवाओं की आईटी एनर्जी के माध्यम से अपना एक रुतबा खड़ा किया है और भारत इसके बाद के लिए गर्व कर सकता है। दुनिया में हम आंख में आंख मिला करके बात कर सकते हैं। और ये मेरा साथ मैं हमेशा कहता आया हूं, आईटी प्लस आईटी इज इक्वल टू आईटी। इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी प्लस इंडियन टैलेंट इज इक्वल टू इंडिया टुमारो।
Namaskar everyone. I am Ravi Gupta. I am editor-in-chief of Elets Technomedia Private Limited, and we have been publishing this magazine called Digital Learning, E-Governance, E-Health, and Banking and Finance Post, and we have been around for 18 years now. And Elets Technomedia has a mission to create awareness about ICT usage in education, governance, health, and financial inclusion sectors mainly. And under this, we are organizing this World Education Summit. And today we are here with this higher education edition of it. And we are going to have very exciting speakers and thought leaders from all over India and also President of India. And he was our keynote speaker at our first summit, and under his guidance, the whole idea started. And I am proud to say that World Education Summit, under its like 20 editions, both in physical forms and virtual forms, has traveled a lot of journey, and it has engaged more than 3,000 speakers, higher education institutions, school education, and more than 1,000 edtech companies from India and abroad in this the mission of creating awareness and building a bridge between our technology sector and the education sector in India and abroad. We have held a World Education Summit in Dubai, Bahrain, UK, and also in the USA under this physical form. And in this month end, we are holding the World Education Summit Middle East edition, also virtually. So let me welcome our inaugural speakers. We have with this in this session Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe, who is the chairman of All India Council of Technical Education (AICTE), which is a nodal agency for higher education and technical education development in the country. We have with us Shri M. Nagarajan ji, who is the director of Higher Education Department, Government of Gujarat, and we have our industry expert Amit Goel ji, who is the head of India and Southeast Asia for edX. So, welcome all our speakers. Let me request my team to please put all our speakers on the screen, please. And I think Sahasra Buddha ji will be joining soon. So let me request Shri Nagarajan ji, our director from Higher Education Department, Government of Gujarat, to kindly come on the screen and let me welcome you, sir. Thanks for joining us. Namaskar, Nagarajan ji.
Yeah, very good morning.
So, Nagarajan ji, you have been the person who started this startup movement at the Smart City Gujarat, Smart City in Surat. When you were the CEO there, and you have a lot of like relation with this like incubation centers and working with the startups. And in this COVID situation, you have been handling the director of as a position of director of higher education, Government of Gujarat, and you are leading a lot of ICT adoption in the higher education sector in your state. So, if you can give your views on the overall impact of ICT in higher education, in the higher education space, and also how are you like seeing the future skill requirement, employability concerns, and how are you looking at the government of Gujarat looking at working in these issues under this COVID situations. And before I like invite you, let me just like welcome Amit Goel, India Head edX. Thanks Amit for joining. Namaskar to you. Welcome. Namaskar. Yeah. So Nagarajan ji, over to you for your keynote address.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thanks for having me here today. So, yeah, my apologies that I had to join while I'm traveling, but still, I really wanted to make it to this event. And it's a pleasure to be here in this World Education Summit. And I have been on and off having various interactions with ELEDs and their various programs. And I'm also glad to have Mr. Amit from edX and also um, uh, Chairman of ACT Anil Sahasrabudhe today. It's a very eminent panel that you have organized here today, especially for the first session. Today being the first and the sort of plenary session for this summit, and I am very well aware that the kind of good work that you guys have been doing, especially in the impact sector of technology. Long before the word impact became mainstream, ILETS was there, actually focusing on how these technologies are making a difference in the lives of people in the various sectors in health, education, and governance, and all that. So I'm very glad to be here in this summit as part of this. And this is a very transformative time for all of us, as you all know, that we cross this pandemic, and we still hope that it will be moving in the positive direction like it is now, and the with the rate of vaccination going up daily, and things are looking really sunny and bullish here. So it's a very right time to think about what has happened and what we should be doing in future. And I just want to share some of the challenges that we had crossed very recently. I welcome Anil Sahasrabudhe sir to this session. He has just joined. Very
Namaskar,
good
sir.
morning, sir.
नमस्कार जी नमस्कार.
Namaskar, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome,
So,
sir.
sir, I was just giving a brief introduction about what we are doing in Gujarat and all that to set the tone for this session. And I've just started. And you have always been guiding us in this process also. So, very glad to have you, sir. And like Amiji, as I was mentioning, suddenly we were posed with the choice of going towards online learning. What we were considering was maybe in a 2 3 year vision or mission, we will make a move towards online and digital learning and sort of hybrid model of educational delivery, especially in higher education. This is the thoughts we were having, and we thought that we have good enough runway to do it. And suddenly came March 2020, and we were forced to take a decision that by June we should be ready to deliver online education during the vacation of that summer vacation of that year. And we galvanized our team and we could live up to that expectation, but there were some of the things that we were faced with the challenges of choices about the technology platforms, how we can scale it across the state of Gujarat, especially in higher education institutions, because we have almost 91 universities and more than 150 government colleges and almost 1000 grant in aid and self-finance institutions and all that, covering, especially if you ask me, in the higher education domain, we had more than 12,000 faculty and almost overall 15 lakh student population that we are looking at. How to enable them to go online for their education? That was a very big challenge, and suddenly we were forced with this. And we took some time to actually study the various technological options that were available and explored various solutions that were in the market, and certain things we chose because of the availability, scale, and also usability by a wide sector of variety of audience. That was one thing we faced. Second is the training part and change management part, where the teachers were suddenly caught in this new thing and they were really sort of forced into accepting this. There was nearly almost no choice given to them, and we had to do a lot of advocacy and persuading and also supporting. While quite a large number of teachers were enthusiastic about this thing, many were apprehensive about what will happen. Will I be able to cope up with this challenge? And will I be able to deliver my job on this new methodology and all that? But we could do it with a lot of organizing capacity. We had chosen a technological resource person as ETRP, Educational Technology Resource Person, in each and every college, and we trained them as master trainers, and then they will support their institution like sort of L1 support to the institution and all that we were able to do it. And we were able to augment the existing infrastructure for internet availability and access, and many of them were also working from home and delivering lectures and all that. We could manage some of the interior area. We still had challenges and all that, but overall the first semester went okay, and we had lessons to improve for the next semester. So that way we constantly learn and improve, and even now, after almost more than a year of implementing the various online education teaching learning activities, we are now trying to optimize it and take it to the next level. We have come to understand that hybrid classes is going to be there. Blended learning model is the in thing now, and also it is going to be there in the mainstream education also, not just in selected skilling or the kind of models that are happening here. And in certain methodologies, we were also considering a MOOC like platforms also, where we wanted to deliver selected course for a very mass audience and all that. So there are many solutions available to that, especially today. Amit is here. We were also exploring Open edX platform, which is one of the very comprehensive solution for that. There were initial challenges about understanding the platform and its nuances itself, being such a big scale platform. But there are a lot of economies of scale and functionalities that could be exploited in this platform. There are similar other platforms, Moodle and all that, they have their own plus and minuses. So it depends on the scale of our implementation, depends on the maturity level of the audience, and depends on the content and the type of management that we want to deliver, and the future vision for the educational technology intervention that is also required. So it is not advisable to think that only one platform is going to deliver to all your expectations, but we should mix and match with the strength of the platform to the requirements of our situation. That is where the learnings we had. Another thing we did was we could go. We have this policy called Student Startup and Innovation Policy, where we are funding ideas. Everyone funds a proven startup. We fund ideas when students are in their colleges and supported by their teachers as mentors. And we have got excellent support and guidance and moral leadership from AICT, and especially Anil Sahasrabudhe sir during the same time last year when we launched the IPR course for mass scale intellectual property awareness creation for the faculties of Gujarat higher educational institutions. And I'm glad to share that AICT vetted the syllabus for that and provided us resource persons along with NRDC and CPAM, and we could deliver 5,400 people online massive class and all that. And for our teaching learning platform, we had chosen Microsoft platform for Teams and all that. And we also side by side developed various reporting and workflow platforms to combine with that. And so far we have been working fine with that. And these 5,400 faculty were taught this IPR course, and after that our filing rate of patent, copyright, trademark has tremendously improved, and we are also having more than 5,600 ideas that have been funded by this student startup and innovation policy. And when we talk about the skills needed for these kind of new technology interventions, we really need to look at not just the technological perspective, but the impact of technology. For example, how do we use certain tools for teaching learning effectiveness, the pedagogical techniques, and we should move slightly, more than beyond, typical PowerPoint and all that, and have a combination of activities that the teachers could actually apply. So teaching learning using digital technologies is something that we all should, implement and adopt in a more deeper way. Now that the pandemic is in the receding phase, we shouldn't think that we should not go back to our old ineffective ways. Rather, we should choose the best ones of the one that we have tried here. So that way, the future presents a great opportunity. And today we have artificial intelligence, machine learning kind of technologies, and they were generic. Now they are more specific. For example, AI in education sector, AI in health sector, and AI in various other different programs, ML, or these kind of things are getting more specialized. So there is a need for everyone to understand the basics of these kind of technologies, and that is where the future skilling is required for the teachers. The teachers have to first empower themselves and get the confidence to actually guide the students. And here the teacher is no longer a teacher, but he has become a co-learner. So it is a learner centric mechanism where teacher act as a facilitator and co-learner. That mindset is already there, and that is going to continue for that. And in many places schools have also started. So I think the digital is there, and it is going to be getting increasingly important to us. We have all been predicting, but now we have evidence in terms of hard numbers that how digital has enabled us to still continue what we were doing despite the challenges of movement and meetings that this pandemic given us. But now there will be a rollback, but I hope that we will be holding on the good learnings and not throw away the baby with the water. So that is my wish, and that would be my effort in my area. And also I'm sure that you would all agree with this. So with this short brief about my experience and interactions in technology, I really thank Helix for giving me this opportunity to be part of this August panel, and I'll be hanging around to listen to the other speakers also. Thank you so much for having me here, Raviji, and your team.
धन्यवाद Nagarajan ji. I think the excellent experience sharing you have done, and you have explained about the vision of government of state government of Gujarat in the higher education sector. And I welcome respected Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe ji, Chairman AICT. बहुत sir, धन्यवाद. Thanks for joining us. And you have always supported and guided us as elects, and we are grateful for your blessings on us. And let me just like request our industry expert Amit Goyal to welcome Sahasrabudhe ji with your welcome remarks. Amit, over to you.
Namaskar, Anil sir. It is again an honor to see you. I've known Professor Sahasrabudhe for about 6-7 years now, and I must say he's been a very amazing mentor, not just to me, but probably all the edtech startups that are maturing across India and the world. His grasp over the technological change which should happen in our current pedagogy, I think that has been instrumental in defining the new education policy. So he has been a visionary for a very long time, and I think some of his visions are now initiating the fruit that we are looking in the modern education now. So it's an honor to be sharing the stage with you, Dr. Sahasrabudhe. An honor always.
Welcome, sir. And I request you to like deliver our inaugural address for the World Education Summit. Sir, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Ravi Gupta. Nagarajan was speaking when I joined, actually, wonderfully. He mentioned about new education policy and the nuances of that, and how during COVID they have transformed in Gujarat. It's very exciting journey of Gujarat State, being a director head of the higher education in Gujarat. Amit Goyal, who is head of India edX, and we have been working together on various platforms for various things, many seminars. But in the pandemic, we are not able to meet physically, but at least on an online mode, we are also meeting on StreamYard. So I think all the faculty, heads of the institutions, who have all joined this particular summit organized by Ravi Gupta. Dr. Ravi Gupta has been every year some very interesting topic he chooses and conducts the program, being the CEO of Alex Technomedia and digital learning platform. We have had great association in the past in the physical mode, and now we are in the online. Today it is a World Education Summit, where topic given is innovation in education. I think most of the things which Mr. Nagarajan said was nothing but innovation. We all were making use of our online medium in terms of whether use of internet or whether use of YouTube, use of some of the MOOC courses are very low key. And this particular pandemic forced all of us to really transform the way education is conducted. We had no choice because all the institutions were asked to be closed down by government. And once the institutions are closed, we didn't want the education, and therefore forget about technical education, where at least faculty are used to use of some of the technology items, whether use of internet, use of tools which are available to us. But many colleges which are arts, commerce, science, they never had and not only access, but never had thought that they would be required to do this. So they all within a couple of months had to change. And then forget higher education, who are at least educated, much less educated people. From nursery onwards, teachers have all graduated to do their online business. So today everything is online, and whether it is conduct of meetings, interviews, so you name it and everything is possible in an online mode. So whatever was our inhibition in terms of use of this technology, which was already available for a decade plus, we started using it very exhaustively during this pandemic period. And the lessons learned are many. One of the lessons is, despite delivery of the lectures, whether recipient of that is he able to receive it at the two levels. One is with the same level of zeal and interest, is he able to receive it? That means the role of the teachers will come in. Whether in a classroom we have a controlled environment, you are watching them every moment, but in an online mode, when 100 students are joining your class, we are not able to see their faces. How do we keep their interest alive and kicking? And that is where role of teachers to make the classes very interesting in an online mode is one part, which is very, very significant. Teacher training in this respect, we have already started. We have miles to go because to get perfection to that level will take some time. But people have started innovating on that front as well, and therefore I think we will be there in about a year or so. But on the other side, the recipient, as I said, student, is to be felt interested is one, but even if he is interested, whether the connectivity that is there, is it robust, is it stable, is he going to get the video part of it, audio part of it, as good as in a classroom environment, is the responsibility of partly government, partly the CSR activities of the industry. How do we support, including not only connectivity and the devices? Because many of the children may not have access to high quality devices since it is very expensive. Poor children may have to have support from the government, from the industry in terms of providing the devices. I think this is one area which we have to work immediately. We have already started working, some results are there, but I think we are still not in a position to claim 100% students are able to get it. We have got surveys where they say some of the remote areas, the internet connectivity comes in and goes off, which we used to suffer, in my childhood. I remember electricity, electricity used to be there for a couple of hours, and remaining hours we used to be in the dark, or some, lamp of oil lamp, we used to use it. But today we don't have any complaint about electricity. You go to nooks and corners, nearly 24/7 electricity is available in every corner of the country. But same is the case with internet. No, we have to reach that level. Internet may be there, but still sometimes the connectivity is so poor that you will not be able to see the video, or sometimes audio is not audible. So how do we make it absolutely superb is one of the areas. And I'm aware that, forget about a country like India, but many developed countries like US and many other countries also, in some parts, they also have problem. It is not that it's the problem of only India. And many of the developing countries. Recently, for conducting a hackathon, which was Africa, and India, both continents, we should use that and then hold it. Many African countries said that they don't have internet connectivity, and wherever it is there, it is so expensive. Even a country like India could not imagine that the internet could be so expensive. In fact, internet, data is probably cheapest in India compared to many countries of the world. There may be one or two countries which may have data cheaper than India. Otherwise, we are the cheapest in the world. And therefore, providing access, which we talk about equity in our education system right from beginning, is already happening. And therefore, we should not be too much worried about this part of technical education or any type of education being delivered in an online mode. Now, coming to the new education policy, which has beautifully explained the 3-4 things where this particular innovation in education is going to play a major role. Number one, there has been certainly support for increasing gross enrollment ratio, and not necessarily through the brick and mortar model of colleges, but also in the online mode, in the ODL mode. And already UGC, AICT have been driving it and saying that the entire degree program can be completely in the online mode. Some degrees, not all of them, because some degrees require a lot of laboratory experiments, etc. So maybe you will not be able to do in all the programs, but majority of the programs can be delivered in an online mode. Secondly, we have our own indigenous MOOC, SWAYAM. edX is also there, of course, but I'm talking about SWAYAM. It is our indigenous platform, where we started with a regulation that 20% of the credits of any college, any university can be had from this. And this was prior to pandemic. During pandemic, we found that why can't we increase it? Because we have successfully been in a position to deliver classes, conduct examinations, and therefore this has been increased from 20% to now 40%. So we are already nearer to the halfway mark of the curriculum, including engineering. I'm talking about including engineering. Any program, 40% of the credits can be had from out of online mode, or what we call SWAYAM or MOOC mode. So that means we are moving or inching closer and closer towards more and more online. Second aspect is full degree course in online mode is certainly possible in many of the fields like arts, commerce, where there is no laboratory content required. So that is the second part of it. The third part, the new education policy talks about multidisciplinarity. And when we say multidisciplinarity, naturally a student should have an access to education which is beyond the domain in which he is going to earn a degree. Suppose I am a mechanical engineering student, I must be allowed to take a few credits from a course like music. And if I am a student of electronics, I must be allowed to take a course in painting if I want, or a photography for that matter. And how do we do it? In every institution, we cannot have faculty from all variety of domains. It's physically not possible because interested students may be only 5, 10, 20 out of 4,000 students. And for 10 students, recruiting a full-fledged faculty is not possible. Earlier mode was we used to have what we call visiting faculty. We were probably in a position to get some local expert who will come and deliver the lecture. This can continue today also. But we have so much excellent resource that is available on the book platform. You range it from humanities.
सर कुछ ऑडियो इशू आ रहा है सर.
Audio issue आ रहा है.
हाँ,
Now it is clear. I will
Yes, sir,
come
yes.
closer.
Yes.
So therefore, I think all these variety of courses are available on the MOOC platform, and this power of taking 20% to 40% credits will obviously empower a student to decide what all courses he wants, and this will bring in what we say multidisciplinarity automatically. So one part of the national education policy innovation is through the use of MOOC. Second one, it also talks about multiple entry and exit. Very interestingly, it talks about multiple entry and exit, and many people many times rake issues about how can it be possible. Certainly, there are difficulties and challenges to address this. But if a student has, suppose, not taken mathematics in his grade 11, 12, because CBSE and many other boards allow more than nearly 50 subjects to be taken. And in the new policy, it is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 system. And the last 4 years, starting from 9th to 12th grade, will not have any discipline like arts, commerce, science, which we do have today, that after 10th standard, students go into an arts college stream or commerce college stream or a science college stream. In the new policy, from 9th onwards till 12th, the last 4 years, there is no stream. So a student, as I said, will take mathematics and music, or he may take physics and psychology and something like that. In the process, might have not taken either chemistry, or might have not taken maths, or might have not taken physics, which is very, very important for engineering education. No one is denying the importance of physics, maths, chemistry in our curriculum in engineering. Without that, no engineering can be understood, can be practiced. But if someone has not done it because of, at a young age of 8th standard, not able to take a decision about what needs to be taken and what is his interest, do we shut the doors against him, or do we empower him by allowing to admit into the college, but at the same time make him to learn through the bridge courses, all that the student has missed out? I think this is what is significant. And in the same way, in the same breath, right from 6th standard onwards in the new education policy, skilling is going to be given very, very great importance. Vocationalization is given importance. So by the time a student completes 12th grade, at least 2 to 3 skills he would have earned. And these skills are not just lower end, maybe carpentry, welding, fitting, machining, the routine one, electronics technician, etc. are certainly possibly there. But apart from them, there may be sculpting, there may be painting. These are also skills. They may be taken. Along with that, high-end skills in new emerging areas like AI, IoT, machine learning. Student of 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th can take such subjects as well while in school. So having done such courses, which are actually at the level of sometimes today BTech and MTech level courses, maybe the student will not go into so much of depth, but at least the broad perspective of that particular field would have been learnt by the student. And if such student is wanting to join engineering, having missed the physics, Why are we stopping the student? And multiple entry will allow him to come, but he has to take first semester itself and second semester additional physics courses apart from what is there in the physics curriculum of the engineering. So maybe there are 2 physics courses in the first year, he will have to take 4 courses and become level with the rest of the students to understand nuances of physics, theories of that. I think this is what is multiple entry. Similarly, multiple exit will require that a student joins a particular stream of education and finds that he is not fit for that, either because he had joined under the pressure of the peers or pressure of the parents or some relatives, and after discovering in the college that he is not doing well and he wants to do something else, and if he wants to leave, why are we not giving him some credit for whatever he has learned? And therefore, with a certificate in hand or a diploma in hand, a student can go out and then become useful. Or these credits, which are going to be stored in what is known as an academic bank of credits. It is something similar to a bank account. The credit that is learned by a student, whatever subject he has learned, will be always deposited there. And in another program, if these courses are mandatory, he will make use of those credits. It is like encashing using an ATM card. Money is drawn. Even if we are in some other country, if you use the credit card or debit card, you will get the currency of that particular country. You will not get rupees from out of that. And same way, if you have done some credits here, you go to another institution for doing some other course, the credits which are useful, you can't probably take everything, but what is useful can be drawn. I think very interesting phenomenon, and this has been already done with. Then secondly, the definition of credits, etc., which are the challenges, are also being addressed. I think these are another area which are being taken. But what Nagarajan mentioned, and probably Amit also will mention later, 2 or 3 initiatives during pandemic done by AICTE for really empowering faculty first and then the students are in terms of our faculty development programs. We had a Atal Academy, AICTE's Training and Learning Academy, which we started 3 years ago. I think Ravi, if you remember, it was in Jaipur in the ELETS conference when Prakash Javadekar was the Minister of Education, and also Uttarakhand Education Minister was present during that occasion, and we announced Atal Academy, the first one of its kind in Jaipur itself. And a building is being constructed there. Next year we will have a physical space where faculty training will happen. But all such training programs which were in an physical face-to-face mode, we had to suddenly stop. And then we said, how do we continue? We can't stop training of faculty members. Then we said we will do it in an online mode. And instead of 50 faculty in one workshop, which we used to hold for 5 days, getting 3 experts from nearby places. Today we are so enthralled actually that we get faculty as experts or industry people as experts from as far east as Australia, New Zealand and Singapore and Japan to as far west as US, Canada, to the European countries like Germany, France and many other countries of Europe. And they all deliver lectures depending on the time of their day and our day, which is the convenient schedule we prepare, and they all give our expert lectures for faculty development program. How enriching it is. We were otherwise with only 3 people we were managing. We have 14 people now coming to each workshop. Secondly, we have earlier limitation of 50 people because of accommodation, travel. Today, we have 200 people. Now, in fact, we had gone up to as high as 700, 800, but then we saw that it is not as effective. So we have brought down the number, we restrict to 200. And with 200 number in one class, those workshops, 5-day workshops, starting from Monday till Friday evening. And a lot of assignments are given in between, a lot of discussion happens. I think it is so enthralling. As I said, all faculty members are able to learn these new emerging areas like AI, IoT, machine learning, deep learning, robotics, 3D printing, blockchain, augmented reality, virtual reality, all these things which we have introduced in the courses. Our faculty have to be trained, and faculty are being trained through this. Last year, with 948 workshops, 1.6 lakh faculty being trained, we received a world record from England. This year, next week, not next week, next 2 days, we have crossed that. With 1,000 workshops, crossed 1.6 lakh, We are trying to target 1,350 workshops with 2 lakh. We are getting second time award from the same organization, World Book of Records. This is empowerment. On the other side, we need values, ethics, morals, integrity, which is very important both from perspective of the industry, from the nation. And how do we inculcate that? We had universal human values student induction program. That also is online going on. You know, we have had nearly 50 of such workshops. Again, 5-day workshops, trained 45,000 faculty. They will conduct similar workshops for their students later. Then the most important thing is about examination reforms, which the policy talks about. We talked about it for the last 4 years, that question papers should not be only based on memory, but you must have questions of higher order thinking. That is what is known as in Bloom's taxonomy, understanding to creativity. There is a ladder where critical thinking, analytical ability, mathematical ability, creativity is all to be tested. How do we set such question papers? We have had workshops of this nature also, and our question papers are getting transformed. But still we have a long way. Still a lot of questions asked are rote learning based. So how do we change them? And change not just in technical education, how do we take it down actually? New education policy in the primary education says learning should be through games, through sports, through what we call gadgets, through what is called as toys. And therefore, we had a toy hackathon where educational content can be developed using toys. And we have two eminent, IIT Kanpur graduates who have given their life for this. Arvind Gupta, who has developed several toys from Pune, and then another one, Jain from Gandhinagar, IIT Gandhinagar. I think these are empowerments of our faculty and students. And both our, institutions of eminence and institutions of higher education, we must support lower end institutions through the mentorship, which is also happening in an online mode today. I think therefore, when we talk about novelty or innovation in education, it is in all fronts, starting from curriculum revision to internships. Internships are all happening in an online mode now, because physically industries were closed, so students were not able to go. So everywhere, wherever possible, every faculty member now has to put his right brain into action and then try to develop something new which will be useful for his college and university. And by sharing with others, we all get enriched. And this is collaboration. And I think another area which we often talk about is don't work in silos, work in collaboration. And for collaboration also, technology aids actually. Because earlier we all used to require to travel. Now without traveling like this, I'm connected with Amit. I have been connected with Ravi Rao, Nagarajan in an online mode. 1 hour we are spending together. So this is collaboration. I think collaboratively by using sharing of several things we can do it. And we, as I've repeatedly said, one of the problems which AICT used to have was complaints about bad practices sometime earlier, but which was reduced. I'm talking about corruption, and therefore the approval process and how visits happen, and lots of activities where people were complaining that they were asking something or these people said they did not show. Now today, using Microsoft Teams, all our processes are online. No one visits the campus. Everything is recorded. Therefore, there is no scope for telling lies by either of the parties. The college or university cannot also say that we had shown and they have not seen and recorded wrongly that we don't have facility. It cannot be said, because if we have shown the facility, it is there in the record actually. And if the facility is not shown and faculty have claimed that experts have said they don't have, and college claims they have, we will say when the question was asked to show library, you were dilly-dallying and it was very clearly visible in the video. So I think either way we can take care of it, and our number of court cases, number of complaints have reduced substantially because of this kind of a technology platform that we have started using. So I think innovation can be there in all fronts. Hackathons are very popular. Let us go ahead with that. With this, I think I have got several meetings today.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Rajya Sabha MPs will be visiting. So I think,
excellent speech and sir, kudos and congratulations for taking so many initiatives. I think I was like imaged to listen to all these 40% stuff word record thing and of all other things. Just a minute, I will take on asking, since Amit is here and we are also in the middle of EdTech revolution in the country, sir. And how is AICT looking at collaborating with the EdTech sector? Like, if you can throw some light. So,
Ravi, if you know that even before pandemic, we started what is known as NEET, National
Yes.
Educational Alliance for Technology. I
I know.
left it out. If you ask a question, I will answer. So under this, not only large and small companies, including edX is on the platform. We have several others, some giving free, some giving small charge for that, and several startups who have innovated and created a product which is AI-based learning. So you understand the level of learning of a student and guide him through. By the end of the program, the level playing field is achieved. Someone who was already knowing something will do it at a shorter interval, maybe in 1 month. Someone will take 6 months. How does it matter? But the product and the access is available to the student till he writes the exam and passes that. So I think this is wonderful empowerment for learning new variety of things. We have more than 100 such products today. And by the time next year, third version will come in, probably it will become 200, 300. And our young graduates who are creating their startups, they create such products. It's not necessary that they're all coming from Microsoft or Google. They are also doing, but they are also coming from ordinary college startup emerging from some small place in Tamil Nadu or Rajasthan or anywhere for that. I think this is really what technology is helping. Many of the industries also are not today conducting the campus placement. They are already having a test which they are holding, and people are selected from as far as in Nagaland. TCS shared with me that earlier we never imagined that we will go for placement to an institute in Nagaland. But when the student writes an exam, a test conducted by TCS for employment, and he scores high marks, they will take his interview online and then select him. So, see, what we call accessibility or diversity or the last man on the street, Antyodaya, they are all happening thanks to technology. Only thing which we have to do is how do we empower students to get connection, that means internet bandwidth and a device. This is much cheaper than the building of huge buildings and infrastructure.
Yes.
So I think your whatever call was there, this is all what we are doing, and in a year or two, we will be leading the whole world, I'm telling you. Because
Fantastic.
we have a population, 1.35 billion population. 60% of them are youth who are all aspiring. And we have so much aspirations developed through the new government which has come from 2014, starting with Swachh Bharat, or you call Make in India, you call Digital India. So all of these are creating enthusiasm amongst our youth, and we must be supporting. There is a question about economy, etc. I think someone from Rahul Rana, Sharda University.
Yes.
One of
Yes,
them
sir.
is internship is important. I think we have made internship mandatory, and big colleges in the cities can sign MOUs with 5 institutions very easily, 5 organizations, and provide internship. Even 10 industries. But smaller places like in rural area or tribal area where there is no industry, for them there is a difficulty. We have an internship portal where we have already floated nearly 12 lakh internships, annually 12 lakh internships. Our target is 1 crore because we have about 65, 68 lakh students who are registered. The opportunities which we are today able to provide is around 10 to 12 lakh. So we have a long way to go. 6 times more number of internships are required. If some industry person is listening, I've been talking to NASSCOM, FICCI, CIA, that only saying that students are not employable, this is not useful, doesn't make any sense. You must provide internship opportunities for students. When they learn something in theory in the classroom and then practice, virtual labs, everything is possible, but still hands-on in the industry is important. Internship is important.
Sir, and let me request Amit Goel to give your comments and also thank Professor Anilji. And if you have any questions, like you can ask him also. If Saraj, 5 minutes, he may answer. Amitji, over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Ravi. And as I mentioned, it's always an honor to be sharing the stage with Professor Sahasrabudhe. Every single interaction that I've had with him over a period of years, I've taken away some notes which have been there with me for life. Some of the notes today that I've seen is, his analogy on skills are the global currency now. So I'm definitely going to use this in my further presentations, and I'm sure our group of CLOs would be quite happy to hear this. He also talked extensively about how sharing with others and how with collaboration we all get enriched. And this is something that he has been doing open-heartedly for the last many years that I've known him. I think he's fully devoted towards increasing the skill of online education, in a blended format with Indian institutes. He has been very supportive of making sure colleges around the world, and especially in India, they're able to leverage what we have in India, the online courses that we have in Swayam and on edX platform. So he has been very supportive of making sure colleges are able to make good use of it. So, having said that, maybe what I could do is for the rest of the audience, I could talk a bit about how colleges can actually produce job-ready graduates, and I would like to quickly touch upon how colleges can actually, solve some of the key problems by working with edX. So, I'll share my screen here.
So, Amit, give me a second. I think like Anilji said that he had to leave because of the meeting. So we will just thank him after this call, so that.
Yeah. Yes.
Anil sir, if you have some time, can we ask you some questions, or if you have any?
Ask quickly because there were keeping them aside.
So, sir, I think you had mentioned about sir Swayam, where 40% of the credits are allowed, and are there opportunities for the Indian edtech companies like edX or others who are having online courses to get enrolled in this platform, sir, Swayam platform? So this is one of the questions asked in the audience. So if you can throw some light on this.
I'll tell you, there are two perspectives to this. Number one, there are formal platforms like edX or Coursera or something where they also provide full 3-credit course run by a faculty member from some very renowned university. So there's no problem in joining those credits into our structure and then get it. And some of them are doing informally. Formal arrangement in the Swayam 2.0 is being thought about, and once that completes, this is also possible. But when it comes to courses, which I said about NEET, something similar to National Educational Alliance for Technology, startups have created some course. It is very difficult to keep track. Some of them will have their own difficulties about conducting exam, and how do we have the same level? So what we in such cases want is students can certainly take those courses either free or even by cost basis, but subsequently the examination and the credit has to be given by the respective college and university by conducting the examination. A teacher also can attend all the classes along with their students in such startup related technology platforms from where courses are delivered, and subsequently even get or collect some model questions from that industry, use them, conduct the test. But onus should be on the faculty of the institution from where the course is floated. I'll tell you the reason is today we are expanding so much. There are hundreds of companies. Tomorrow, if someone says that I was not evaluated correctly, so what mechanism would be there to do it? So credit and credit transfer is a different ballgame, where formal educational institutions, one institution and the other institution can collaborate and do it. There is no problem because there is a formal arrangement. Even if the faculty resigns, there is always another additional faculty member as a stopgap or a standby in the same field of education who can continue the classes. But that cannot be the case in the case of open platform where credits of a particular startup will be taken. But if there is a content which is very useful, I appeal to colleges to adopt it. I have no problem. The other extreme should not also be done that I have one case which I had to deal with now recently. The college or university not having any faculty, or they terminated all faculty and outsourced entire thing to some couple of startups to conduct all the classes and give the grades. I think this is not what university is meant for. College is meant for. College has its own role. I think we must understand we cannot do that. If you don't have an expertise in one area, say AI, and the students are interested, or we need to have a 3D printing course, and I don't have any faculty in that area. So if you inculcate some startup from industry, I have no problem. But wholesale giving the whole responsibility of conduct of education itself to third party outsourced agency.
I agree, sir. I agree. I was like,
I think that is why I think as a regulator, we need to understand the difference, the nuances, and we should innovate. No, that is what I am saying.
Sure, sir. Sir, there is a small minute video we want to play on ICT in education. This is like edX case study. तो सर आप 1 मिनट प्लीज निकाल लें और उसके बाद we will like Amit will like thank you and you may please
thank you.
बस सर 1 मिनट दीजिएगा, बस एक वीडियो है सर आपका, एक वीडियो we want to play in front of you, sir. Deepak, if I may request you to please play the video. Abhishek. So just happening. Give it a second.
Ravi, we can actually play this later with the rest of the
Okay,
session.
okay.
So
Okay.
So we'll not take much of this time, right?
नहीं बस brief वीडियो है तो हो सकता है ना, एक बार कर सकते हैं before he leaves we can do that.
Ravi जी वो coherence नहीं बनेगी, so
अच्छा okay.
It should be aligned.
So we may then अच्छा okay तो अमित आप एक brief speech अपना दे दें and अनिल जी can then we can request him to leave there. Yeah, Amit ji, over to you.
Right. So, Ravi, we'll do a proper session, and I think at this stage, I would just like to thank Professor Anil Sahasrabuddhe and Nagarajan ji for sharing their thoughts with us. I think the kind of vision that they've shared with the Indian institutes, they have been very enriching, and we're honored to have them as the stewards for leading the innovation in educational technology. And I think the whole India is going to benefit from this. So, thank you so much for your time, Anil ji.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर, और एक वर्चुअल एक सर्टिफिकेट वी विल प्रेजेंट टू यू, थैंकिंग यू फ्रॉम आवर साइड फॉर जॉइनिंग अस सर. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. वी आर ब्लेस्ड टू हैव यू विद अस सर.